Just a few months ago, everything was normal. Every day was a usual boring day with my parents, but I was happy. My parents were going out a lot late at night, but I figured they just needed some time alone. One day, when they were out and I was alone in the house, I went to the kitchen to grab some food. I heard some weird noises from the basement, but I thought I was just really tired. On my way back to my room, I heard something again. This time, it was loud and clear. I heard the crying of a little girl from the basement. I got really freaked out because I always believed in the paranormal. Immediately, I thought it must be a ghost or something. I ran back to my room and locked the door as fast as I could. I couldn't sleep, so I decided to wait until my parents came home. It felt like hours, but they were probably back in an hour. They were trying to be quiet because they thought I was asleep. Just when I wanted to open my door and tell them what happened, I heard my father say something that shocked me. "Let's see how our little friend is doing in the basement." I was very confused and I didn't know what to think. I heard them as they were going downstairs, so I decided to follow. I was trying to be as quiet as I could. Slowly, I opened the basement door so I could hear them better before going down. I heard my parents laughing and the crying again, but this time it wasn't as loud as before. I was more and more quiet and the laughing got louder and louder. Finally, I gathered some courage and decided to check what's going on. I went down a few steps on the stairs, just enough to see a bit more. I will never forget what I saw. There was a little girl just barely alive on the ground. She had several stab wounds. She didn't even have enough life in her to scream, but I could see the suffering in her eyes. My parents were kissing each other, and then my father asked, "Are you ready for the big finale?" My mum just nodded her head and kissed him again. My father pulled out a drill from a toolbox and grabbed the little girl's neck. He looked at her for a few seconds, and then he started to drill into her head. I looked away just in time as tears ran down my face. My parents were just laughing as my father continued to do the deed. The little girl died in a few seconds, and then I recognized her. I had seen her in the news a few days ago. She was missing for 2 weeks, and the police were looking for her. I wanted to go back to my room to call the police. I was disgusted by my parents, and I never wanted to see them again. I slipped as I was going up the stairs, and they heard me. I started to run to my room, and my father was running after me. He told me to stop, and he would explain everything. I ran faster than ever in my life, and finally got to my room. I closed the door, and then I pushed the bookshelf to barricade the door. I dialed 911, but then I froze. I hung up the phone, and I didn't know what to do. I hated my parents, and I knew what they deserved, but they were still my parents. I was just sitting there for hours. It was really odd that my parents didn't even try to come in. One time, my father knocked on the door and told me to forgive them one day, but that's it. I only realized how long I was sitting there when I saw the sun rising. Finally, I dialed 911 again, and I explained everything. In 20 minutes, the police arrived, and I shouted, "I'm here. I'm the one who called you." They knocked on my door and told me it was safe to come out. I waited outside with 2 police officers while the rest of them were searching the house. I told them about the body in the basement, but when they came back, they told me there were not 1, but 3 bodies. I realized my father knocked on my door to ask for forgiveness because they already knew that it was the only way out. A few months have passed, but I'm reliving the whole thing every night. I went to several psychologists, but nothing helps. At least, I thought nothing helps, but now I understand that there's only one way out for me too. Got some Dunkin Donuts this morning, and it brought this story back to mind. Figured I'd share it here. During high school and college, I worked at Dunkin Donuts for about 7 years, and bounced around to a few different locations. I was used to working at the Dunkin Donuts in my town, where we would get the yeast rings delivered periodically and frost them ourselves as needed. I transferred to a new shop about a half hour from my house with all the same responsibilities, except for the donuts. They were delivered by corporate and they arrived frosted almost perfectly. They looked like the plastic donuts they show in commercials, always round and not squished together, and they would dip them in frosting so it was evenly spread and neat. It was a busy Saturday and was close to Valentine's Day, so we had a fresh order of brownie batter donuts delivered that morning. We were slammed, which was normal for a weekend, so it wasn't out of the ordinary to see my manager, who I'll call Jeremy, running around stressed out. When he first ran past me, I didn't think anything of it, and I continued making sandwiches at the sandwich station. He rushed by carrying a pastry tray, and I watched him begin frantically throwing something in the trash, looking worried as hell. At first, I laughed and just said, "Jeremy, what the heck are you doing?" He straightened out and looked absolutely beside himself. I had never seen Jeremy look so lost, so I asked what was going on and if something was wrong.
"Someone's filled the donuts with staples!"
He told me he got a phone call from corporate that one of the stores in our chain, which contained 10, had somehow discovered multiple staples in every donut in their order. That was at least 48 donuts from our store and more or less for the other 9. They told Jeremy we had to get rid of the most recent delivery because whoever put the batter in the filler dumped a ton of staples in it as well. Thankfully, we hadn't sold all of the previous order yet from the morning because it was still relatively early. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt like I was going to be sick. What if a young child had gotten one of them? I pictured some family sitting at home on a Saturday morning, or going out to get some drinks and donuts for the kids, and imagined everything else that could have happened. I never found out what came of it, and as far as I know, neither did my boss. I'm assuming nothing happened because I thankfully never heard anything on the news. Makes me wonder if they covered it up. And I hope they were able to find out who the asshole was who did it. So, Dunkin Donuts terrorist, let's not meet. And I hope somehow you're rotting away somewhere. Exit 24. It's almost strange how driving at night gets less magical every time you do it. The first time you look at the lights of the cities and other cars and gaze at the stars through the front window. After the millionth time, however, it all gets indifferent. Everything fades in the background just like it would do in daylight. The lights don't stand out anymore. They're just a part of the scenery, like cities are while seen from a distance during the day. The magic of the night seems to disappear over time. This is how I felt while driving home. Me and my fiancée had just moved into our first house, and it was a beautiful moment for me and Zoe to finally enter the house while it was under our ownership. However, the stress of the moving soon caught up with us, as getting all our things to the new house was a long and tedious operation. On the first night, we were done with moving everything. However, Zoe had already forgotten something. Apparently her beauty case had been left at her parents' house on the other side of the country. I tried to convince her that it could wait a night, but she told me it was way too important for that, and since I was the only one with a car, I should go. Not wanting an argument on our first night in the house, I agreed and hopped in my car, off to be a hero and get that beauty case. The ride to my in-laws' house went on without trouble. My trusty old Audi had given me no trouble, and the radio actually played some decent music, making the drive very tolerable. Although the drive started while there was still plenty daylight. At the time I arrived at my destination, The sun had disappeared behind the horizon, and only the moonlight guided my path to the driveway of the house. Zoe's father was quite irritated with the disturbance, but her mother completely understood the predicament and quickly grabbed the case. They gave me a bottle of water for on the way, and with that, I was on the road again. That month, I had driven through the night countless times, so the magic of it was completely gone. I drove mindlessly, just trying to get home in a reasonable amount of time. Unfortunately, my surroundings weren't the only thing I wasn't paying attention to, and soon, my fuel meter was getting very close to the E. "Not now, not now!" But yelling doesn't add fuel to the car, so I was frantically looking for a gas station. Finally, I saw an exit and immediately took it. This apparently was exit 24, although the previous exit was 12. And that wasn't the only weird thing. It had a sign saying there was a gas station, but it seemingly went into a forest. However, I didn't have time to worry about where the road went, or the numbering of exits. I just needed some gas, and fast. I looked in my mirror and saw that a big SUV had taken the exit too. This reassured me a bit, as I wasn't alone anymore. A corner in the road came, a corner I had wished I never took. Around the corner, it seemed like I had driven into a new hellish world. The entire forest seemed to be on fire. All the trees except from the ones near the road were burning, coloring the sky red. How the hell did I not see this while on the highway? Just as I said that, the screams began. Sounds of people being tortured and gruesomely murdered came from everywhere in the forest, without seeing anyone causing the sound. I checked my mirror and the SUV was still there, so I wasn't the only one. I checked the road again and immediately slammed the brakes. In front of me lied hundreds of corpses in the middle of the road. All were horribly mutilated and blocked. They were laid on the road perfectly, but it now seemed like the screaming had stopped. The sight of all these bodies was too much, so I grabbed my phone to call the police. Strangely enough, the call didn't connect me to the National Police, but to a local bureau. Still, police were police. I told the operator everything I saw, saying I needed help soon. However, the operator stayed calm, almost like she had experience with this particular situation.
Where is your location?
Somewhere near exit 24.
Okay, no matter what, stay in the car and keep on driving.
The guy from the SUV had gotten out and was now trying to contact me. I rolled down my window and immediately regretted it.
What are you thinking? You could have caused a crash with braking like that. What kind of moron are you?
I pointed to the bodies all over the road. He looked shocked for a minute, but after that, it was back to the insults.
Who is that guy?
The operator asked, apparently having heard his voice. Some guy who was behind me while I braked for the bodies. He's now yelling at me.
Wait, is he out of his vehicle?
Yes, why? I couldn't even finish my sentence.
Ah,
I was still wondering why it was a problem that he was out of his car when it happened. A black void-like arm came out of the flaming forest and grabbed the guy by the stomach. He screamed loudly while being taken to the forest. Then, his gigantic car behind me was picked up and tossed away like a coin.
Sir, what happened?
That guy behind me, he just got f***ing dragged into the forest by some black arm.
I knew this would happen. Alright, listen to me. Drive now. The gas station you're looking for is only a mile away from your location. Just drive. Please.
She didn't have to tell me twice, and I pressed the gas pedal. With the tire smoke, I screeched off, with the screaming starting again. Now, one voice louder. As soon as I passed through the bodies, they seemed to vanish into thin air. I arrived at the gas station, which was indeed there. The second I arrived there, the fires and the screams seemed to instantly stop. It was a very modern and clean facility, in sharp contrast with the landscape I had just driven through. Luckily, there was no one there, so I filled up my car, paid, and drove away. I almost screamed with happiness when I got back on the highway and saw other cars around me. The terror was finally over. I arrived home around 3 a.m, where Zoe was still awake.
Are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost.
She said, while I put down the case. There was a large car crash. Lots of blood and ambulances. Not a pretty sight. I lied.
Oh yeah, that's not fun. Well anyways, thank you for bringing my beauty case.
Yay, I'm a hero now. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to bed. Zoe laughed, but I couldn't. Since the experience, I've tried multiple forms of therapy, but nothing seems to truly help. I can now put the event somewhat out of my mind, but every time I have to drive at night, I make sure my fuel tank is 100% full, and every time I look at that bottle my in-laws gave me, full of vaporized water, I think of that night and all the horrible events that happened. The girl. This happened 8 years ago, but the memory of it still haunts me to this day. Me and my parents used to live in a 15th-floor apartment in Iran, and we lived on the 15th floor. On one particular night, I was sleeping with my mum on her bed. Then, I suddenly woke up in the middle of the night and saw a blue shadowy girl next to my mum. She had her eyes closed, and she was holding her hands in a way that looked like she was praying. Suddenly, her eyes opened and looked at me. She kept looking and looking and looking. I was so scared. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. Then, when I tried to wake up my mum, she disappeared from the window while looking straight into my soul. 4 years later, we moved to a new house, and I was sleeping on my bed, alone this time. Again, I suddenly woke up in the middle of the night to see the same looking girl right next to my bed, looking straight into my eyes. Her hair was braided and she was wearing a long white dress. And the most scary part was that she was holding an axe. I was so scared and I didn't know what to do. So I just closed my eyes, hoping she'd be gone. Soon, I fell asleep. I'm not sure if the ghosts I saw were the same people, but they look pretty much the same. I haven't seen the girl ever since, and I think that's because I've moved to England. I'm really glad I moved to another country, because I'm sure the girl would have appeared again if I stayed in Iran, and might have even killed me. It started about a week ago. My commute into work is grueling, and I spend about 90% of it on the London Underground. It's usually okay if I can get a seat, but those are a rare find, and sometimes you're left sandwiched in between people like a sardine. It can be unpleasant. It was one of these trains that I first encountered the man. He was clad all in black, face and body mostly obscured. He had this air of dominance about him, like he was important somewhere in the world, always looking straight ahead. He wasn't glued to his phone like the rest of us. Something about him both intrigued and disturbed me. Maybe it was his almost carefree demeanor, or perhaps it was this perpetual confidence that he seemed to ooze. The thing that disturbed me most, though, was a smile that spread from cheek to cheek. It was the smile of a deranged lunatic. I saw him almost daily. Each day, his smile seemed to widen, growing in size, spreading from ear to ear. It seemed to happen when he caught the eye of an unsuspecting passenger. They would shift uncomfortably in their seats, desperately trying to get away from his blank gaze. I was the only one that seemed to notice the look of sheer terror that plagued their faces when he looked at them. And I was the only one that seemed to notice when the next day, one man became two. I know how it sounds, believe me, I do, but it's true. The very next day, I found myself staring at the same man twice. I sat, utterly stupefied, thinking myself gone mad. Both men were identical to the blemish. It seemed no one was safe from the men in black. Things only got worse. The next day, I found myself looking at the same man 4 times. They were multiplying, and still no one but me had noticed. Something was happening here. The vacant expressions of these horrifying men burrowed deep into my soul, and their unhinged smiles invoked this primal fear in me. Who were they? What did they want? I looked out of my window this morning, and my heart beat against my chest like an incessant drum. Everyone has been replaced, as far as my eye could see. The street was littered with these strange, terrifying men in black. I watched as they walked, their gait so unnatural and stilted, like they weren't used to it. Their faces were blank, vacant. Not a shred of humanity lined their plastic features. They consume us. I've seen how they do it. Their bodies twist and morph. Their chests unfold and we are absorbed. I don't know why and I don't know how, but they are here. They are here for us. I think I'm the only one left, and they'll be coming for me soon. Please, is there anyone else out there? This happened years ago, when I had gotten my first actual job. I didn't think much of it. I figured it was harmless. I could find people around the country to chat with. I wouldn't give out personal information about myself. No phone number, address, any of that stuff. I wasn't stupid. I made a simple profile, stated what kind of friends I was interested in making, just basic stuff. After about a month, I received a message from a man. I don't remember it word for word, but it basically said, "Hi, I found your profile, and I'm super interested in being friends." He then stated he lived in the same state as me. Though I know it was rude to be snobby, I did politely say on my profile that I was trying to make some pen pals outside of the US. I responded politely though, and I replied to a few of his messages for a while. I found out he lived in the same city as me. He then replied, "I see you like anime. I love anime. I also see you've been to Japan. I've been to Japan too. Do you go to anime conventions? Maybe we could go together to the next convention that comes to town." I felt a little uncomfortable. I put right on my page I have no intentions to meet up with anyone, just have an online pen pal. I politely told him that, and he didn't like it. "I just thought we could be friends, since we have similar interests." I again politely told him I'm not interested in meeting anyone in person from the website. He pretended to be fine with it and went right back to rambling about his interests. I logged out of the website for a few days and just focused on my personal life, going to work and doing schoolwork and taking care of my disabled father. One day, I woke up to notifications on multiple instant messenger apps, all stating basically the same thing. "Hey, it's..." from the Penpal website. He messaged me on like 4 of my chat apps, which I did not give him. How did he find it? I was really annoyed. As politely as I could, I messaged him on the Penpal website. "Hey, so I don't know how you found my IDs for my chat apps, but that was kind of over the line. That wasn't really appropriate. Not one app, but you messaged me on like 4. I'm sorry, but I really wanted to talk to you, and you haven't been on the website for a few days. That doesn't make it okay. I also have a personal life and a job and a family. I cannot spend all my time on here. That's why I messaged you on those apps. I don't have them listed on my profile. How did you even find them?" He avoided the subject. "I'm sorry that I did that. I'm just trying to be your friend. I just want to be friends with you. This isn't the way to do it. I'm very uncomfortable that you somehow found that information that I didn't give you." I don't think we should talk anymore. I don't want to be friends with you. I'm sorry. Please don't contact me again. I immediately blocked him on all of those apps and on the Penpal website. For a few months, everything was fine. Suddenly, I got a message on one of the apps, and the user wasn't in my friends list. The message was basically as follows. You stupid fat ugly bitch. No one will ever love you. You'll never find a man to love you. You're so fucking fat and ugly. Why don't you just kill yourself, bitch? Do the world a favor. I rolled my eyes and blocked the account. Throughout the course of a year, every few months, across my multiple social media platforms, I was being harassed. I had completely forgotten about the man until I received a message on the Penpal website. The account had no name or photos. It was a random username. The message I received was the same nonsense as before, calling me fat and ugly, saying I'm a bitch, telling me I should die. Once I got the message on the website, I knew it had to be him. I had had no other issues with anyone. I replied saying the guy's name, telling him I know it was him, and that his behavior was really sad and pathetic. I just wanted to be your friend, you bitch. Watch your back. Then the account blocked me. For a few months, nothing really happened. I got 1 or 2 messages from fake accounts again. Then, one day, I received a message from a police officer. He was contacting me about a profile I apparently made on a website called Ashley Madison. It is used for people to have affairs, hookups, etc. I had never heard of it before then, and absolutely did not have an account on there. I had a long talk with him, where he told me his department investigates human trafficking and thought I was an underage girl, possibly in danger. It had my personal Facebook account listed on the profile, as well as other ways to contact me. I was in shock. He advised me to contact the website and asked them to take down the profile, but said to me, "You seem like a sweet girl. I don't know who you pissed off, but don't read the profile." My curiosity got the better of me, but I should have taken his advice. Using some of my normal selfies, an account was made, and the profile stated a lot of horrible things, very derogatory. It made me sick to my stomach to read some of the things it said I apparently wanted to have done to me. Thankfully, the website took quick action to take down the profile. The next time I got one of those hate messages online, I snapped. I didn't hold back, cursing him out for being so immature and disgusting because someone simply didn't want to be his friend. The account blocked me without answering. I didn't get any messages from any accounts for a while. One day, when I was the closer at work, I was waiting outside for a family member to pick me up. As I was listening to music, waving goodbye to my manager as they drove off, I got a notification on one of my apps. "You ugly bitch," I sighed, rolling my eyes as I opened the message. As I was typing, another message came in that made me stop typing and freeze up. "You're all alone now. I could kill you right now if I wanted to. No one would ever find you." I backed up against the building. I didn't have keys, only the manager did, who just left. I looked around the parking lot. Not a car in sight. The streetlights were dim around me. My heart started to race as more messages came in. "You're so fucking ugly, you know that? No one would ever fall in love with you. Your family probably won't even miss you, you disgusting bitch. I should just kill you right now." I started to cry, the phone shaking in my hands. Just as another text came in, a car pulled up in front of me. It was my family member coming to pick me up. I took a deep breath and quickly got into the car. "Sorry I'm late. I got stuck at 2 red lights." "Wait, your manager already left? They just left you alone out here? Just drive!" I accidentally screamed at them, tears streaming down my face. "What's wrong? Did something happen at work?" I was crying, shaking. They took my phone and looked at it, seeing the messages. "What the hell? Who the hell is texting you?" "I don't know who it is. Please, just drive. I want to get out of here." We went back to their place and they wanted to call the police, but I told them not to. I had no idea who they were, where to find them. Instead, they called another family member who works in the IT field. After they heard the whole story, they told me I should have made new accounts from the beginning of this harassment. I listened to them, and right then and there I made new accounts on all my social media. I worked at that job for another month, but my family member had told my manager what happened, so I was never put on closing shifts again. I was only given morning shifts, where I clicked out of work when the sun was still out. But I still don't feel safe. They know where I worked. My manager understood when I quit. All the harassment has stopped. To this day, I still haven't received any more of those messages. Now I'm married, I still live in this city, and I don't live in that neighborhood anymore. I feel comfortable, and I don't feel afraid that this person will find me and stalk me again. But even now, anytime I get a random message from someone who isn't in my friends list, my heart races for a second.